You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you fed up with the corporate bullshit holding you back? Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast, the ultimate launchpad for entrepreneurs ready to seize control and unleash their creative genius. Hosted by Phil Better, the Podcast Mogul. Each week he's breaking the chains of conventional work with bold strategies, raw insights, and inspiring success stories from the digital entrepreneurs who took the risk and invested in themselves. This is your call to arms. Invest in yourself, break free from someone else's rules, and build the empire you deserve. Now let's dive headfirst into today's explosive episode.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host for the most Phil Better. You'd think I'd be able to speak a little better doing 100 of these episodes. But today we're going to talk to a guest that excels at transforming data into actionable insights and helping businesses thrive and scale with confidence. Our guest today is a certified director of operations and certified dashboard designer who has a passion for serving online business owners. Their expertise lies in turning business ideas into tangible results by providing clarity, building automated systems for numbers tracking, and freeing up precious time for business owners. Her approach allows entrepreneurs to make advised, confident decisions without being bogged down by data and metrics. Who loves those? Apparently our guest does. But her skills are not just about crunching the numbers. She helps business owners understand how their ideas are performing, identify the gaps, and implement strategies that save time and money. Her work is all about helping you work smarter, not harder. As a result, you'll gain the freedom and flexibility you need to make a greater impact on the world. One of her former clients, Melissa Lanz, owner of the Fresh 20, praises Kari as a data master who transformed their number tracking system, providing immediate access to real-time information and essential reports. What better testimonial is that? But beyond her professional accomplishments, our guest is married to a handsome engineer who runs his own business, entrepreneurial family, and they have 3 incredible tweens. She loves reading, especially holding a paper copy in her hands like I do. And though audiobooks have become a close second, it's good for the business books, I find. Music is another passion, having joined a choir at 12, sparking a lifelong desire of singing. Maybe we'll get her to sing on the episode. But today, we're going to talk about her journey, the importance of making business decisions with data, and of course, how you can turn your ideas into results and reclaim your time. So please put your hands together for the amazing Kari Poppleton. Kari, thank you so much for being here.
Well, that was quite the welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
It was my pleasure. You're an amazing entrepreneur, amazing guest. I'm so excited to have you on because I don't like data that much. Numbers are very interesting to me because as a podcaster, I need to know, but that's about it. I'm like, okay, they're going up. That's all I need to know. But I know you love the minutia, getting into the dirt and deep and dark secrets of the numbers that they provide. So I'm happy to have you here, happy to pick your brain and everything in between.
Thank you so much. And I mean, I think you're definitely not alone in feeling that way. I think the vast majority of business owners, they either kind of put up with numbers or they actually really dislike them. So I love being able to come alongside people and help them realize that they don't have to be scary. It can be fun. You can build a lot of confidence using them, and it can actually be something that people look forward to actually digging into and utilizing. It just, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get there. But I like kind of coming alongside people and helping them get to that point.
I love that. That's the story of all entrepreneurs, helping others solve problems. I want to go back to the beginning, though. What made you decide to take your number crunching abilities and put them into the entrepreneurial world?
That's a really great question. So I actually started my first business about 14 years ago, kind of in between when my second and third kids were born. And it happened very accidentally. My husband always joked that if I was going to write a biography, it would be The Accidental Entrepreneur. I know some other people kind of find themselves in that position too. And it was a homemade or like a handmade e-commerce business. And it really started out of, I was making things for my own kids. And then as, a couple stores found out about the things that I made and, items got into stores and things like that. And it really gave me a creative outlet during a time when things were really hard. I had developed some really significant health issues and we didn't really know what was happening. And I kind of lost my ability to do all of the normal mom things and wife things. And I was a stay-at-home mom and I couldn't do any of the things anymore. And it was really, really tough. And finding something that I could do was kind of what kept me going. Obviously, waking up every day and having my kids there and things like that was a huge inspiration. But it was also still really nice to be able to have a thing that I could still do at the end of the day because I had lost so many other things that I couldn't. And it was that business for a number of years that just kind of kept, even if I was like, I could make one thing during the day, it gave me something to kind of keep going with. And eventually about 6 years ago, I realized that a lot of the skills that I had gained as I was, running and marketing this other business were ones that I could use to help support other entrepreneurs. And that idea just really excited me because the freedom and the confidence and the motivation that came from that business that I was running on my own, I was like, I would love to be able to help other entrepreneurs fully step into that for themselves. So if I could come alongside them and support them, like you said, that's what most business owners do, right? We solve the problems. That it was just really an exciting prospect to be able to go and to be able to help other people hopefully achieve those same things in their own lives.
I love that. Going from helping yourself find some something outside of being a mother, which I know a lot of mothers struggle with an identity. More than just, I'm just more than a mother. I do more than just being a mother. It's a stay-at-home mother at that. So finding something that helped you, and not only that, it gave you creativity, business sense, and then that helped you launch your second when you had more time and more understanding. So you've had pretty much two business ventures your whole journey, and obviously both successes in different margins and different levels. Was there nervousness when you became that accidental entrepreneur, if you will, when you first launched that business?
Absolutely. And probably, so much nervousness with that first one, but probably just as much nervousness doing the second one, because to me, it felt so different. Doing an e-commerce business as compared to a service-based business, to me, felt like, in some ways, that I was it was kind of like the first time again, right? I think there's always that question of, will this provide value to people? Will people be able to see that I provide value? How can I communicate that I provide value? And what do I need to learn? And who's the person that I need to be able to become in order to really serve those people at the highest level and have the impact for them that I really want to be able to have? So 100%, so much like uncertainty and nervousness and just the desire to really want to be able to help.
I love that. And in the 6 years that you've been running this new business where you're helping entrepreneurs with the fear of data, if you will, have there been changes in that journey? Have you realized, oh, I didn't know so much about this type of thing inside business when you thought there was businesses? Like, what were some of maybe the challenges or some of the changes that you faced in these last 6 years?
I definitely didn't start out in the data space completely. I actually have kind of done a few different things along the way, including I did Facebook ads solely for a long time and really kind of got my skills up there. And I honestly just found it was a lot of drama. Like Facebook ads is a lot of drama. And it was too much for me. Like the last minute, accounts being shut down and all that kind of stuff. There was kind of like this emergency feel all the time. And I was like, I need something that's a little less chaotic all of the time. But through those different things that I've done, it was actually worked out very well because I ended up with a really great marketing foundation and background. And then really stepped into helping people with their operations when I realized through working with their advertising and getting into the back end of their businesses, how much help and support people really needed with the operations side. Because so many people start businesses because they're great at their craft, right? They're a great web designer or a great copywriter or whatever the case may be. And they don't really come into it thinking, oh, I'm going to grow this big business. They're like, I just want to help people with the thing that I'm great at. And then they start the business and they realize actually don't really know how to run a business or organize a business or those kind of things. And as I stepped into really supporting people with their operations and eventually becoming a certified director of operations and helping these 7-figure businesses kind of, organize the pieces so they worked a little bit better, I realized that there was just kind of this hole in being able to find information easily and to look at data and to be able to even just find the numbers most of the time. And then also because, we have so much access to so many tools and things like that, our information gets really siloed into these different platforms. So if you're using a website and you have a cart tool, or maybe you have a funnel too, or a funnel builder, and all of those pieces are together. Well, how do you find information from all of those pieces and put them into one spot? So that's really kind of what pushed me towards really digging into numbers and niching down into that, realizing as I was a director of operations and as I was trying to find that information for my clients, how incredibly hard it was using the tactics that I kind of had been before. So I kind of started digging into it and then absolutely fell down the rabbit hole of realizing, that there was so much more out there that I didn't have access to. And so that's probably the past 3 or 4 years. I've loved learning about it and figuring out how to make it easier and easier. I think that one of the biggest surprises for people is really how much information they actually can gain. So much of our marketing feels like it's just kind of like spaghetti at the wall, hoping things stick, hoping things work, right? And you're like, but I put out all this content. I feel like it's working. So, maybe it is. And just that we can have a lot more of that information than it feels like we can. And that's super empowering for my clients when they start to see that they have that information and then they can actually use it to make decisions.
Is there a moment that you can think of where either it clicked for you, like something just like clicked for you and you're like, oh shit, like an oh shit moment, if you will, or maybe one that you can share with your one of your clients where it clicked for them that they like, this was important, like this was the thing that they really needed to do, or you really like you finally figured something out that was like troubling you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think always when we do dashboard builds and we're pulling information from sales and from marketing and traffic and memberships and subscriptions and all that kind of stuff into one spot, there's always at least one thing where I can see the client looks at it and there's a light bulb that goes off, or there's a slight look of horror that they've realized that something is happening they didn't know. I think one of them that's really powerful is, we pull all their historical sales data and we can kind of look at that over however long their business has been running and compare month over month and year over year and which products are bringing in more revenue and that kind of thing. So one example is someone that I was working with that has lots and lots of different offers. And one of them was a low ticket monthly membership. And as we pulled all that information together and, they could very clearly see how much of their revenue was attributed to each of those different products. They realized that that monthly membership was only, I think it was somewhere around 5% of her monthly revenue that was coming in from that. And they looked at that and face dropped and realized, oh my word, there's so much of the team's time and of their own time and marketing efforts and marketing money that was going into that membership. And it wasn't really bringing in very much revenue. And it also wasn't leading to their higher ticket programs in the way that they had wanted to. And kind of decided right there, like, this isn't even worth pursuing anymore because it's really not accomplishing the overall business goals we wanted. And it's also not bringing in the revenue that it would need to support all of that time. But without seeing that information in front of you, you're kind of just going off of a gut feeling and kind of what you think is happening. But being able to actually see what's happening is a completely different story.
Yeah, no, I can see that not having access to the data can be like, yeah, I think this is attributed to our goals. It looks like it is, but then you get the down and dirty and you're like, I was completely wrong. Shit.
And there's definitely a lot of those moments too, because, so much of what we do really is kind of driven by gut feeling, right? And of thinking, this is what I think will do the best. This is the thing that I think is going to resonate. And we also become very attached to our offers and the products and things like that we create, right? Like it's our kind of our next baby, right? Like it's we're attached to it. And so sometimes letting go of some of those products or courses or services or whatever is really hard for entrepreneurs because they're like, oh, but this is the thing I started with and this is what was really working before and whatever. And sometimes seeing those numbers in front of you is the thing that pushes you over to be like, okay, yes, I need to iterate, or I need to, pivot, or I need to focus on this other product that I have. And it helps to kind of get over that feeling of, oh my word, something horrible has happened here. And it helps to guide them in the right direction, which is always a very positive thing.
Yes, moving them towards the more, not just lucrative, but time, not the time sink that they think it is, or the money pit of wasting their time and money on something that's not working. You're clearing that up for them, giving them clear purpose going on. Is there a success story that you have where a client came in to work with you and they were like, oh, this is, we're doing great. And then you came in and you helped them, like, I'm throwing out 10X here, obviously whether it's a 10x or not is irrelevant, but like they went to the next level thanks to your contribution with just setting up the data so it's readable, if you will.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest impacts and where we see that sometimes the most often is really being able to see, where traffic is coming from, let's say to a particular funnel for a particular product, and then seeing how much, traffic is hitting their sales page, how much traffic is hitting their checkout page, and then how many people are actually purchasing. That's in and of itself, just knowing that traffic flow is unbelievably important, being able to see those percentages and those conversion rates from step to step. But like I said, too, also knowing where the traffic is coming from and knowing if your traffic is coming from a particular place, are those people actually purchasing as well? So let's say you have a ton of organic traffic that's coming and you're also doing paid Facebook ads, for example. Maybe Facebook ads is making up 50% of the people that are hitting your page, but maybe only 5% of the buyers. That starts to really have an impact on, knowing if your marketing is actually paying off for you. And so one of the things that we really work on is, making sure we know where the traffic is coming from. Are there actually people even hitting your sales page? We often get things of like, oh, my offer isn't working. The price isn't good. People hate the name. Maybe I should redo the sales page, all of the things. And then discover that no one's actually seeing their sales page because they're not actually telling people about actually sending traffic there. So all of those pieces, and as we kind of can kind of tweak each of those different numbers, one of the things that I love the most about numbers is how they compound together. So I mean, if you can, if you're getting 100 people to your sales page and all of a sudden you can get that up to 1,000 people, well, that's really great because you're increasing the number there. And then if you can increase your conversion rate of the number of people who hit your checkout page, and then the number of people from checkout to sales, each time you increase each of those different percentages, it has this huge compounding effect that adds together. So I think those to me are the most exciting things of being able to really pinpoint what really needs to get looked at so we can go in and kind of fix it and track to make sure it's making a difference, and then go to the next thing and fix the next bottleneck and so on and so forth. And it also really helps you from fixing things that actually aren't broken. Sometimes you look and you're like, I'm going to redo the sales page. Maybe the sales page was fantastic and that's the thing that's working. We don't want to break that. We want to know that it's working. And so, establishing all of those things is incredibly important. And then, like I said, that compounding effect of making all of those positive tweaks together has an exponential effect. And it's very exciting to see that have that kind of impact in sales and revenue and just confidence with the business owner too, of knowing that they're serving people well with the product they're selling.
But I can feel your passion for just for helping, like the way you're explaining, like just little tweaks here can monumental effects. The smile you have hasn't left your face the whole time we've been talking about this, which is nice. It's a very genuine feeling. The feel when you get entrepreneurs who are so just passionate about helping. In the last little while, because you've been an entrepreneur for quite some time here, moving close to 2 decades of entrepreneurial experience. I know.
Rounding up a lot here, Phil.
Yeah, I like to give you a little rounding up. Okay, maybe a decade and a half. How about that? Decade and a half of experience. We'll go with that. Not yet 2 decades, but we're closing in on that 2 decades. But you must have invested in yourself. Countless times, reiterations, regrowing when you needed to grow. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important for my audience to hear, when was it that you realized that, hey, I need to do a different type of investing in myself to go to the next level, to grow to that next version of myself? How did you realize it? What steps can some people take to view it? Or what do you do to invest in yourself now versus then? Like, I know there's like 20 questions I shot at you. Whichever one you feel like answering is fine by me. But it's always been interesting for me hearing how people invest in themselves.
I love this question because I think that so much a part of being an entrepreneur and creating a business that you love, but is also the most helpful to the people that you're serving, is that there is that continual growth. So I think when I first started off, I think it was more so that I was looking for support in actual skills. Like, I'm missing this skill set. I need to learn this skill set. And kind of discovering that there was this whole world online where you could learn all of these skill sets was very eye-opening. I grew up, thinking, of course you go to university. This is the only path. This is the only way that you can learn things. You go to school to be able to do these things. And as someone who I really love to learn, like I really love to, and finding out there's this whole world of online courses you could take to learn pretty much anything that you desire was super exciting to me. So very skill-based at the beginning. And then as I would kind of, add one skill obviously, as you get deeper into a topic, you realize how much you don't know about that thing, which inspires you to want to be able to keep going. So I think that was kind of a big focus at first. And then realizing that, once you gain the skills, you also need to be able to have the mindset and the confidence as a person and as a business owner to be able to take the step to do those next things. So kind of when I got to that point, I started joining masterminds and kind of having coaching that helped with that mindset part of things. And also just the business, not so much the business building side of things, but what was possible in my business. And I think I'm not like 100% a visionary. I'm kind of right in the middle, but I mean, I love my operations stuff. Like I really love that part of it. And so for me, I like to be able to borrow other people's belief and other people's knowledge of what's capable for different types of businesses. And I think for me, that's super inspiring. And that's what kind of pushed me to kind of keep going and wanting to keep growing my business and looking for better ways that I could serve people. So it's definitely kind of, and now, as we kind of have built that part up, sometimes you identify again, there's some more skills I need. So I go back and get more support there. So it kind of ends up being flip-flopping a little bit, I think. But typically if I get really stuck in something, or if I'm really stuck in my own head, or I just kind of feel like I can't get momentum, then, having a coach or being in a mastermind and having a community of people around me is amazing. So I'm in a great mastermind right now, full of just lovely human beings that are generous and kind and encouraging and all of those things. And that has made a world of difference, because entrepreneurship can be a little bit lonely sometimes, right? When you don't know a lot of other people, around you physically that do the same kind of work. It's so lovely to be even in a virtual room full of people where you can say something or say that you're, dealing with something that's hard. And they're all like, oh yeah, I totally understand, because, I've been there too. So all of those things have been really helpful in my journey to get where I am.
Well, that's some great advice and very interesting ways of looking at it. And I feel you when you start going down the rabbit hole and you're like, oh, I need to know this. Oh, I need to know this. Oh, I need to know this. And it's like, damn. you're at that level where it's like, I'm at 50%. It's too late to turn back now. I need to continue. And then you're like, okay, I have this whole new skill set that I never knew I was going to have.
And it's a blessing and a curse, right? Like, it's great to be inspired by things and to want to learn new things, but it also can be a little bit dangerous, because it's easy to kind of have that like squirrel thing of like, okay, well now I've learned this, and like, ooh, but now I could learn this, and I can learn this. So I do have to rein myself in a little bit. And I know that this is one of the things that I have to deal with. But I think it's also, there's just always so much more to learn and so much more to dig into things. And there's so much fascinating stuff out there. So I have to pull myself back a little.
Oh, I can only imagine how your house probably would have a more than a library. It would be more of a library if you were allowed to run unfettered to knowledge gain. Speaking of gaining knowledge, let's look down the road. 10 years down the road, where do you see yourself, not only as an entrepreneur, but as a person? What are you doing? What are we at? Where are you located? Like, what is in the future for Kari?
So 10 years down the road is a very interesting one for me right now, because I think by that time, my kids will pretty much be almost out of the house. So that's a huge paradigm shift for us. My youngest is almost 14 and my oldest is 17. So we're kind of in that weird stage where like, there's going to be a lot of changes happening in the next 5 to 10 years. But I think that overall in my business, on that side of things, I think that there's just so much room for growth and so much potential for that. And I'm really looking forward to that, of kind of, really feeling like really settled in the niche that I'm in and being able to kind of support people in the way that I do. And I'm excited about that, because I think that always that growth compounds, just the way we talked about the numbers compounding. Funny how that works. But it really does. And you kind of get to a different stage, and then you learn, and then you get to a different stage and different things happen and you learn again. So through all of the things even that are really hard, I mean, that's where that growth really comes from, and enables us to be able to change. And, our businesses can only grow as much as we are as people too. So I think it's kind of exciting. Like I said, my husband is an entrepreneur as well. So getting to kind of, walk alongside him as his business grows and things like that too. And then just really adjusting to, probably being almost empty nesters at that point, and trying to wrap my brain around that part of it too. So it's exciting. There's the amount of opportunity that we have is enormous. And I'm so very grateful for that, for, the internet lets us do all these things and have these kind of conversations across, thousands of miles and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see where the digital landscape ends up in 10 years, considering how quickly it's changing right now.
Oh yeah. Speaking of that, what do you see happening, especially with like the advent of AI coming into the space? Like it's disrupting a lot, and obviously data is one place where it's probably used the most, and maybe not too disruptive as yet, but it is something that's disruptive. How do you see AI coming into and playing in your world, and maybe the disruption it could have?
Mm-hmm. You're right. I mean, I think that it's kind of having an impact everywhere. I think we all kind of got a glimpse of that as soon as ChatGPT came out and everyone really saw the potential of what was happening. I think that a lot of service providers are really going to need to lean into AI rather than being afraid of it, and really embracing it and being like, how can this help me do my job better? I absolutely use it for things that I'm working on. There's complex like spreadsheet formulas and things like that I don't have just sitting in my head. And, AI is amazing at helping me figure those things out so I can get exactly the results that we're looking for. Those kinds of things are already implementing that. And I think that the more that service providers especially can implement that into the work that they're doing, those are the people that are going to end up being very successful, because they know how to use those tools to their best advantage and make them more efficient and more effective and more accurate and all of those things, which is amazing. And I think that as the machine learning, even we see that with Google Analytics 4, that's kind of stepped in with Google Analytics 4 as opposed to the way that Universal Analytics was working. There's machine learning that happens and can kind of fill in the blanks almost a little bit based on past experience and things like that. That gives you a kind of a better picture of your data. So lots of that comes into play. And I mean, it really is hard to imagine even 3 years down the road what things are going to look like, considering how quickly things have changed in the past year and a half, right? So I think we all just kind of need to like buckle in and, kind of go along for the ride and try to anticipate the next step, or at least where things are right now, and be like, how can I apply this right now into what I'm doing, instead of pushing it off and being like, oh, I'll figure that out later. I think the people that do that are going to find that they're a little bit behind in a couple of years.
Oh, I have no doubt. Speaking of not putting things off to the side, I know a lot of business owners put aside their data they look at, because they find it overwhelming, because like we said, you're getting sources from like thousands of different places. If you could provide one piece of advice to the audience of business owners, something that they can do right now, like an easy win for them to get their data more organized, or at least can get a sense of what's working, what's not working, what would you suggest?
So I say, first thing, make sure that you have some kind of tracking set up properly on all the parts of your online ecosystem. So like I said, if you have a funnel builder, a cart tool, your website, or maybe multiple websites that all kind of send traffic back and forth to each other, make sure that you have a way that you're tracking that whole customer journey accurately. Even if you're not ready to dig into the data yet, even if you're kind of not ready to go headfirst into the minutia, at least you have that information so that when you are ready to dive into it, you have as much historical data as you possibly can. Because if you know where your traffic is coming from, even when you look back in retrospect, it helps to inform the decisions that you need going forward. So I'd say that's one of them. And I would say the other one is, sit down either yourself or with your team, if you have somebody that's helping with marketing or those kind of things, and talk about maybe the 3 biggest questions that you have, where if you're in a meeting and you're having a conversation and it comes up and it's like, oh, if only we could know this, that would really help us to make, decisions. Pick your top 3 questions that you have and then figure out where you need to go to get those answers. So maybe it is, where is your traffic coming from? Maybe it is, which of our products has the most amount of sales, or whatever the case may be. But make sure that you're picking the questions that you really need answered, because some of them are going to be the same between businesses, but some of them are going to be very different. So it's really important to figure out for your business, what are those things that you just really wish that you knew, and then kind of go from there. So figure out baseline first and start small. We don't need to measure 3,000 numbers at once. That is the absolute best way to have somebody get burnt out, get frustrated, throw their hands up in the air and walk away, never look at another number again. So pick a couple small ones, work with that, and then go from there.
I think that's some great advice, and I'm perfect for people who are just starting and fearful of the numbers. So I can't thank you enough, Kari, for that. However, we are coming near the end of the episode, which I hate, because I love your passion. Your passion is amazing. Your smile is extraordinary, I must say. It's so warm and inviting. Makes me feel like that numbers are friendly, in essence, the way you talk about them. Not some scary beast, but however, we'll leave the numbers to you, Kari. But I want to know, I have your 10-year-old self right beside me. She's an amazing person. Her smile's just as beautiful as it is right now, yours today. What's one piece of advice you would love to be able to hand back to your 10-year-old self?
I love this question so much, especially because, my kids are younger and we're trying to, encourage them and those kind of things too. I think the biggest one would be that you're capable of learning anything. And I think sometimes we look at things and it seems daunting because we're looking at too big of a picture, or we look at the certain people that we idolize and think, oh my goodness, I could never do that like they do. And recognizing that we all started somewhere and we all had to learn bit by bit. And that you can learn new skills. You can learn in business, but also new skills for you personally. You can learn to interact with people better. You can learn to ask better questions, all of the things. But you can always learn new things. You're never in a spot where you're like, I'm stuck and this is the end of my limitations. There's always something else that you can learn to better yourself and push you toward your goals. So don't be afraid of learning new things. Lean into it, be willing to fail, but keep learning, keep looking for that next step and the next thing to learn.
Marlo, great advice. I mean, it is very practical for us as adults to remember that we need to keep learning, to keep our brain going so that we can stay creative and flexible in that. Kari, I'm going to jump off stage here. I want you to let my audience know where they can connect with you, how they can join you. If they're needing some data help, obviously you're the number one person because you're the first data person I've had. And you know what? I'm going to probably keep you as the only data person we have here. But please let them know where they can connect with you and how they can work with you.
You bet, for sure. So I'm available on my website at karipoppleton.com or over on Instagram at Kari Poppleton again. And if you have questions or anything like that, I'm always happy to chat about it. I think you can probably tell I really love this area of things. I love to be able to support people in just kind of figuring out what the first steps are for them. If you already know that you need help, I'm totally happy to have that conversation too. But any kind of conversation that can kind of push you in the right direction and help you take the first steps on this journey, totally happy to have.
Excellent. Okay, I want to thank you so much for being here. I had so much fun learning a bit about numbers, more about your journey than the numbers, but they're an intricate part of who you are. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a fun conversation.
To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below because that's where you're going to connect with Kari and find out all the wonderful things that she has to offer. So those are just down below. And as always, I want to thank my guest and you for listening. And remember to always invest in yourself.
Thanks for joining us on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. The Podcast Mogul reminds you that your journey to freedom and success starts with one powerful move: investing in yourself. If today's episode sparked your fire, hit that follow button on Spotify and drop us a comment. Share your wins, your challenges, and what drives you to break free from the corporate grind. Remember, you're your best investment. Always invest in yourself because your potential is limitless. Until next time, keep hustling and take control of your destiny.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.